Hi, I'm Rachel Larson, and I'm the Assistant Dean of Academic and Career Development at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln College of Business. I get to work with students in my role, and one of the best things about my job is learning about students and their career paths. We're going to talk a little bit about internships today, and so I have Nathan Ray joining us today to tell us a little bit about his internship path. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Nathan Ray. I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm a supply chain management major here in the College of Business, and I have minors in accounting and computer science along with that.
Excellent, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your internship experience. So what have you done and who have you worked for thus far?
Yeah, so the past 2 summers, I've had the opportunity to work with DMSI Software out of Omaha. That first summer, I was a supply chain intern, doing a variety of tasks, kind of more in a business format. And this last summer, I was a business analyst for them. And so I was actually working on a development team and really handling the business side of kind of their software development.
How did you find your internship?
Yeah, I actually found them at a career fair my freshman year. It was a career fair that was more focused on computer science, but as a supply chain management major still interested in computer science, I went up to them and struck up a conversation, and it really just kind of was a perfect fit from that first conversation. And then just going through a few rounds of interviews, the rest is history. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, loved it so much the first summer, wanted to go back another summer.
So how did your internship role change from your first summer to your second summer when you were there?
Yeah, the second summer, I think the position I was in, it definitely felt a little bit more real to some extent. I was doing a little bit more customer facing work where, some of the work I was doing during the summer, I was actually seeing it roll off into production code and seeing, real customers use it. So that was definitely something that was interesting to see from year 1 to year 2. I think also just I was able to grow as an intern from year 1 to year 2. You're kind of used to the office norms after the first summer in, and so that was another thing with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've taken several supply chain classes. You also took some accounting classes too.
Yeah.
So how has that background and kind of the variety of courses that you've taken here at the College of Business helped you in your internships?
Yeah, one I'd really touch on is Accounting 309, accounting systems that I took. That class really kind of showed me the combination of accounting and supply chain, which in the role I had in the internships was very applicable, learning about like management information systems and enterprise resource planning. So really learning the ins and outs and how those two fields combine together, that was really applicable. As well, just, I think generally supply chain classes, learning about logistics management and, supply chain 444, extremely important. Learning about like the reorder cycle is extremely important for ERP. And so just lots of courses that kind of fed into, during the internship, you're seeing all these little areas where you're like, hey, I remember that in a lecture from last semester, so.
Yeah, well, and I know you have a tech background too, and supply chain can go a number of different ways, procurement, logistics, and then there's also really the tech side of that. So how have you integrated kind of your computer science experience with supply chain?
Yeah, I think, just understanding from the back end, if knowing, Python or R are 2 languages that I've used, and then even like the querying languages like SQL. In my internship, it wasn't exactly SQL, but it was a language very similar to that. And so being able to do that and access back-end databases and know kind of how to wrangle that data was just so important. And then even like as I look to a future career in supply chain, being able to have those technical skills just in my back pocket. You never know what's going to come up, but being able to have those technical skills is so important.
Yeah, so you mentioned technical skills, but what about kind of what are termed a little bit more soft skills or essential skills, vital skills? What have you learned in your college experience here through classes, extracurricular activities that have really rounded out your skill set?
Yeah, so much of it is the soft skills. I think communication is kind of the name of the game. It's so important if you can communicate in a variety of settings and know how to adjust your communication based on who you're talking to or the form of communication. As well, I think just responsibility and just, holding yourself accountable for your actions and getting the work done that you've promised to get done is super important.
So I know part of those essential skills, leadership is also pretty important, and you've had a few leadership experiences here on campus. So tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so I currently serve as the president of Bathtub Dogs, which is an a cappella group here on campus. And so in that role, I'm really able to lead our executive board that then leads our entire organization. And so dealing lots of people skills and kind of, transparency with the communication, making sure we're all on the same page, as well as just being quick on our toes of, sometimes issues do arise and just being able to adapt and overcome those quickly and make sure as an entire group that we're all kind of on the same page there. As well, I served as the vice president for Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity. And so in that role, I was one of 11 on an executive board. So really honing in on that communication, doing a lot of event planning with that, making sure that when I am making a decision, all the stakeholders were on the same page, and just making sure overall that our chapter was functioning in a good way. So yeah.
So like the supply chain and logistics of events.
Yes, exactly.
So what's one thing that you accomplished in your internship that you really was like, that was awesome?
One thing I was really proud of, they approached me with a project idea and they said, hey, we really want to develop kind of a new system for tracking our agile, like Scrum processes in the development department. And so the tool that they recommended I use was a Power BI dashboard.
Yeah.
And I had never done that before, but I was up for the challenge. And so I took it was like a 2-day course over Power BI, and then started working through the project and had a lot of great mentors that were helping me out throughout all of it. By the end of it, I was able to kind of demo it for a few different employees and then actually have it deployed to the development department. So, starting from complete scratch with something I hadn't learned before, and then by the end of the project, having something that was actually benefiting a large team of employees and really bringing value to them was like super impactful for me to just kind of see it from end to end and
That's awesome.
know that I was making an impact. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you? I think you've got an internship lined up.
Yeah, so this next summer I'll be heading out to Washington, D.C., working as a business analyst at Capital One. So really excited about that opportunity, something a little bit new for me, a little bit more off the beaten path than what I've done the last 2 summers, but still really exciting, and I know I'm going to learn a ton.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what do you think that you've utilized in your internship or learned in your internship experience thus far that you're going to take to Capital One and your future career beyond?
Yeah, I think saying yes to things. Like I said with the project, I hadn't had experience before, and they were like, do you want to do this? And say yes, right? Yeah. It's like you're there to learn and also provide value to the company. So, each day is kind of a new opportunity to learn new things and, really just grow as a student, but also as a future worker. And so I think that's the one big thing is when I get to Capital One, I'm going to say yes and just kind of go after any opportunity I can.
That's awesome. I love that message.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing about your internships and your experience here on campus.
Yes, I'm happy to help. Yeah.